James comes to us from the Dallas, Texas area. So they're in the Lone Star region. And like I said earlier, we really enjoyed James' talk back in June, and I'm sure this one's going to be just as enjoyable. So please welcome James Knabb. And James, I'm going to let you take it away.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Everyone can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
All right. So we're gonna talk about sort of what clubs are doing post COVID-19. And the first thing I want to start off with, if I can get my arrows ready to go, is what happened during COVID. And there's three things that really stood out during COVID with model railroading. One, we had Zoom meetings like this. We saw a lot of virtual groups. And we also got to connect with people from really across the world. So with the Zoom meetings, we got presenters from across the world, right? It's sort of what we're doing right now. I'm presenting with you in a different city. You got to be part of another club virtually. With virtual groups, we saw rail fanning network groups like we talked about last year, right? 100% rail fanning groups where you can go out and find other people to rail fan with. We also saw these 100% online groups. And with that, we saw things like Jim Kello's group and OPSIG and the narrow gauge group, which made model railroading groups free. But one thing that those have in common, what happened during COVID, is we all had more options. So we had more options than the once a month in-person meeting, right? So you got to try your own style of hobby, either TCA or NMRA, or you can go into that modern style modeling. But one thing that happened with more options and being virtual is that a lot of new people joined the hobby, because a lot of people really got kind of bored of watching Netflix for a straight 2 months. So they went and joined the hobby. And so model railroading really grew a lot during COVID. And so what happened is we saw a lot of these new styles of model railroading coming in, more modern style modeling, different things. And the one thing that happened is that there's so many new types of modelers, but the issue is they don't know we exist. So the question is who are these modelers, or who is the casual model? And the way we figure that out, we need to look at the industry of model railroading first. So if we look at this graph, we're going to go through each of this. But if we look at the top 10% right here is us. We are the clubs, the manufacturers, the people who drive the hobby forward. So even the toy train collectors on the other side are part of the 10%. The NMRA is part of the 10%, right? TTOS and all the local clubs and museums. But the one thing is that this 10% is very much a closed community. It's very hard to get into it. And if we look at this is the casual modeler. This makes up a huge portion of it. And our goal today is talk about how do we get this casual modeler into the 10% and make it 15%. So who is this casual modeler that we're really going to be talking about today? And it's really intro people who joined during COVID, right? Might be in a club, but not very active, very beginner-like. Definitely has a layout, started our layout, and wants to build a layout and progress. They might be interested in rail fans, but one thing is for certain, they're definitely intro and intermediate, right? But the one thing is they want to join a club, right? They're interested in building a layout. They're interested in getting in more involved, and could be any age range. But the one thing we need to realize is that they haven't heard of the 10%. They haven't heard of NMRA because they're very new. So what does the casual modeler look like? So 60-plus-year-old men make up 75% of this category, right? That's to be expected. 20% is mostly dads and also moms, right? That parent age. And then lastly, the last 5% are people my age, which is what we talked about with the next generation last time, right? So they make up about 5% model railroading. We can look at it like this as a big graph, right? If we look around this room, we have probably about over 75% is above that 60-plus-year-old category. But our goal is how do we reach specifically the next people in line? Or how do we attract them? And there's three ways that we attract the casual modeler into the 10%. The first way is social media. The next thing is in person at train shows. And lastly, number 3 is word of mouth. So let's dive into social media. So I don't know why that's doing that. So if we're starting to get on social media, what should you do as a division? And the first thing is set up a Facebook page and also an Instagram account, right? And once you set up those, and I know y'all already have set up those, what should you do when you get on there? Post about club layouts or division layouts. Show that you are active in the community. People want to join an active organization, right? If you don't show that you're active, how do they know that you're active? How do they know that you're still there post-COVID, right? Post about club updates and sort of these meetings. Encourage people to come. And lastly, post about events. Show people that you are active in your community. And, you usually post about weekly, right? But the focus is finding those casual models, those intro people who want to get involved. So again, 20 to 45% of the industry, right, is the casual model. Makes up a big percentage. So target audiences, we talked about this again, right? These are my target audiences if we go on social media. 75% of your time should be marketing to this category. 20% should be marketing to that parent age, and 5% should be marketing to this. The reason why these people are interested, they're not really interested yet in joining a club, but they do control most of social media and a lot of the flow of information out there. So it is important to market to these individuals a little bit. But our question is, and y'all might need to unmute yourself so you can say things because I won't know if you're there, but how do we market to each group? And number one is wording of posts. Each wording is going to be very different. If you send something out about Thomas the Train, you're going to attract a lot of very small kids. If you talk about and send out something about the Colorado Narrow Gauge, you're going to attract NMRA members, right? Very basic marketing skills. So if we break it down on how we attract each individual, 60-plus-year-old men in the casual modeling market loves club photos, they love train shows, and they have a specialty, meaning they sort of already know what they're going into. So either you've probably done American Flyer as a kid, or you've done Lionel, and you sort of know where you're going. Those dad age, that 55, 35, love club photos, train shows, and they're a little bit more DIY. They're more hands-on. They want to build something. If you ever go to your son-in-law's house or son's house and something breaks, 9 out of 10 times he's going to want to fix it with his own tools. That's the stage that they're in. Moms are interested in family fun events. They make up a very small market of this, but they're interested in finding events that multiple generations can go to. So if you want to market to multiple generations at the same time, market to parents. And then lastly, 18 and 25-year-old men like rail fanning. So if you want to unmute yourselves, you're welcome to. Usually I'm not in this hybrid format, but if we're looking at this photo right here, who do you think we're marketing to with this photo?
Santa Fe guys.
Santa Fe. This is also a Railroad Museum, right? So you might be marketing to a lot of people who are interested in hopping on a train, right? What about this? Who do you think we're marketing to in this?
Skilled modelers.
Scale modelers, scratch builders, right? What about this? Who are we marketing to with this?
Newbies.
Newbies. Anybody else have anything? I think some of y'all are on mute.
Nobody.
What about this? Who are we marketing to with this?
My old train set.
Right. American Flyer, TCA, right? Or 60-plus-year-old men because they have a specialty, right? If we look at this, we talked about this last time. Who are we marketing to on this?
Again, new guys or
Yeah, mostly new guys, younger individuals, right? That modern style model.
Instant gratification.
Right? There we go. But if we break it down again, 60-plus-year-olds have a specialty. Dads have it like DIY stuff. Moms like those family fun events. And then the last category likes rail fanning. But if we look at wording of posts are very important as well. So if we look at this, join us for our scratch building competition. The theme is the Colorado Narrow Gauge, and make sure to bring your model to show the judges who are we marketing to if we send this out.
People already in the hobby.
People already in the
who are
hobby.
really detail oriented.
Exactly, right? What about this one? Join us for an intro to model railroading clinic. We'll also be having a tree making clinic, and later we'll be rail fanning as a group.
Your marketing department.
Same as number one.
Really? What about intro?
No, new guys.
New guys, right?
The problem you've got with that is the use of the word clinic.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that later. Come join us for an annual train show. We'll have family fun events and Thomas for the kids to ride on. Who are we marketing to there?
We're hearing
Moms,
moms.
family fun events, right? Great example of what we're doing right here is we're marketing to rail fanners. What's your favorite spot, rail fanning spot in Dallas? Hashtag next gen rail, more of the younger individuals. If we look at this one, more advanced modelers, right? This one is a great example of showing we're part of the community, right? Plano train shows this weekend, stop by our booth, showing that we're part of the community. If we look at NMRX, right, who are we marketing to on here, right? Chip paint with wax paper, we're probably marketing to more advanced modelers. If you're an intro model railroader, that's very hard to connect the dots with, right? How can you use chip paint on wax paper, right? If an intro person wants to get trains on a track, right, and doesn't know that much, it's very hard to market certain things to it, right? Selling model train inventory, that's going to be people who are already in the hobby, right? More Australian layouts, that's intro. If I was an intro person, I'd love to see that. And lastly, building the historic Constitute Bridge. Not really sure what that is, right? It's very local, and so this is more advanced modeling. So just an interesting fact. But here's an example I did a couple years ago of marketing to all of our age groups. Because if you are having an event, you want to market to every single age group, right? So this is a great event to go to and learn how to create your own personal model train layout. So if you're intro, hey, join us. We have examples for you. We'll also be talking about other family fun events in the Dallas area, right? So it's marketing to moms, meaning they're wanting to bring family fun events, means they want to bring multiple generations with them. If you're looking to try something new or just want to get involved in model railroading, then you're in the right place. Another intro. We'll be having a clinic or presentation on realistic backdrops, right? So clinic, we'll talk about this later, is very much a code word within the 10%. And we'll talk about why that's important later. But I just want to show you an example. If you send stuff out on Facebook, here's Trinity Rivers a couple months ago. It is mostly going to 54 to 65 years old. So if you only do Facebook, you're only marketing to mostly 54 and above or 45 and above. Instagram, exact opposite, 54 and under, right? Very two different markets. So I encourage you to use both so you can maximize the amount of people that are seeing your event. Things with post-COVID that I'm having issues with. They're unsure about your meeting with COVID, right? Different states have different things, right? I made this slide back in January when it was really high. They're very, very cautious. A lot of people, and this is mostly about how big or small the event is, right? Because we do use code words. We'll talk about that later. But the biggest thing I get is not a lot of people know what NMRA and TCA is. Pre-COVID, a lot of older people in the hobby were still doing it. We're still knowing what NMRA and TCA are. Since there's so many new people, the name recognition is not powerful. I'll say it again. The name recognition is not powerful. 9 out of 10 times, they will not know your organization. So you need to explain who you are about through the posts. The next question I get, we won't go over this, is how do we reach the next people in line? These are the social event goers. These are the people who have a train set and maybe show up to a train show once a year. They might be interested in transportation. They might show up in a museum, but they're definitely not interested in joining a club. When we're marketing to them, we should market to train shows because that's how you stay in business with a train show, because 50% of your attendants are families or social goers, right? So that's why, so if we do more train shows, there's more, right? You market more to them, but they make a huge percentage of the hobby. But if we look at the industry again, our goal is to get the 10% to 15 by bringing these guys in the 10%. But if we want to look at the role of the industry, we want everybody to be at the 10%, right? And so our goal, or the role of the industry, is the manufacturers and trade shows, one, get people into the social category, to get people into the casual. Our goal as a club and national organization is to get people within the 10% and make it hopefully 15%, right? So our role is to encourage casual modelers to become more advanced modelers. Maybe a yellow brick road, right? Help them jump across. So the whole point is getting that casual modeler into the 10% and making it 15. You guys are killing me. All right. Recap on social media. How do you gain members? Number one, they go to train shows and sign up. They see that you're active once you go to a neutral event, so they show up. Number two, they show up into your club meeting or open house. And number three, this is like less than 1%. They sign up directly by watching NMRA or something. What does it do? Diversifies the ways you gain members, because if we have another pandemic, we might have issues with a lot of people sending stuff out, right? And going to train shows. Decreases the average cost of recruiting a member, meaning that it's free, forms relationships. And remember, this takes a lot of strategy. This takes a lot of time. Let's talk about something that actually people care about, is train shows. So you will have to unmute yourself again. Besides the lights on this, what stands out to you in this picture? What stands out in the trains? What booths can you see?
Sellers.
Boxes.
Boxes. Can you see any specific booths
No.
or what their name is?
No.
No.
There's
What
a
about
flyer on one side, but that's it.
What? Oh, this is NMRA, by the way. This is our group.
Okay.
What do we see in this? Do we see anything that stands out?
Mike's Train House.
It was MTH.
MTH, yes.
Heiko, maybe.
So mostly, does everything look the same in this? Can you tell? What's what? Can you tell this group is Colorado Narrow Gauge and this group's Lionel?
No,
No.
not from the picture.
Right? Exactly. If we are a casual modeler and this is the first time they're seeing this, how do they know the difference? They don't. So our goal is standing out like this ugly white building that you might be able to see because it's in 2023, because this is across the street where the big boy is. So you might be able to see this if you want to drive all that way. But our goal is to stand out. So we'll go into standing out a little bit, but if you have just a booth, make them remember who you are. So great way is handing out trees. Give everyone to a little kit, because every parent, grandparent is going to go, where'd you get that? Oh, I got that at the NMRA booth. And everybody who walks by your booth is a potential member. So the point is you need to stand out and not look like this. It's Dallas area. So I've been, actually, since I started, my first second event was the Plano Train Show. And I've been recruiting there since I was 16. I just turned 20 in March. And I average about 15 to 20 new members per train show. And I think I'm on pace to get 40 or 50 new members for me this year. But we don't have a booth. I like to call it a compound. Let's look at the green. The green is the recruiting table. This is where I am. The gray is mini clinics. We put a couple MMRs there, right? And they are building something right there, right? And so everyone's like, whoa, that's cool. What are you building? Oh, we're doing this. If you're interested in coming to a meeting and learn new things, hop over to the recruitment table. Dark blue is a switching contest. People walk by. Oh, what is that? Come to the recruitment booth, right? Black is a test track. Another great example, because everybody buying a train needs a test track. So people who come up to the test track, you can move them over to the recruitment booth, right? So there are a lot of ways to stand out besides just handing out things. Here's the recruitment booth, right? I always hand out a magazine, and I really want a whole bunch of more free magazines that have our members in it, because it really makes a potential member want to be a member when you have an MMR in that magazine publishing and he's doing a mini clinic right there. That looks really good for your division, and they're probably going to want to sign up because of that. We've had that happen a lot, right? And so I'd love to see more free magazines with the NMRA, those old ones there. That would be awesome. If you are having these, throw them away. Do not give them out to the casual modeler. I gave them out like when I was like 16, and everyone's like, "Well, this is not what I want to do." Because the reason why it only talks about insurance and it's for club presidents. And I see some divisions just hand that out, and they look at them like, "Dude, I'm not interested in joining your insurance company," right? So if you have these brochures, I mean, just throw them out or just give them to a club president because they're not going to help you. But give them things to remember you. Give them things that they can hold on, business cards, things like that, because they're going to remember your interaction with you a lot more if they're holding something. Talked about 100, 200 people the last Plano train show. Every single person who came by the booth because they wanted to buy something and see the mini clinic was a casual modeler, right? Those are the people we're trying to get. People were interested in the partnership program. They're intro and they're wanting to save money. Partnership program is a very underestimated and undervalued thing in the NMRA. And that's something I feel like we need to push more. Meetings. People want to get involved. They want to be involved in an active organization. They want to know the events by division. They want to know agenda. So they want to see like a clinic list right there for the next year, because so they know what they're getting into, right? They absolutely love the paper magazines. And they want to see layout tours to see how they can model their spot. And the one thing is they want help building a layout, right? So phrases to stay away from. I talked about clinics, and Gordy brought that up. And we're going to talk about code words or phrases to stay away from. Code words and phrases are only things that the 10% or the organization knows. For example, a casual modeler, if they don't know the NMRA, they're definitely not going to know what the AP is. It's a great program, but I see a lot of things on Facebook with some NER. I saw this, for example, and their one thing is like benefits, and it says AP program. If you're looking at that, you have no idea what that is. You're just going to walk away. Like, I have no idea. This is a code word. MMRs, no idea what that is. If they don't know what the NMRA is, they're definitely not going to know what NMRX is. And there's a lot of issues with that as well, but we'll talk about that. But we need to use language that they know, not what NMRA clubs use. So put it in their terms, right? Here's a couple of things that they don't really care about. They don't, or they don't know. AP, definitely don't know what that is. Definitely haven't been through the AP program, so don't really know about the MMR. I see a lot of people talking about T as scratch building things. And if you're intro and you have no idea what that is, you will walk away from that and find a different club. They don't know what NMRX is because that's very much for members. We talked about clinics at the beginning of that. Not a lot of people know clinics. So I went to the Plano train show and they literally say clinic. Well, if you think of clinic, you think like a veterinarian clinic. You think of an urgent care clinic, right? You don't think of a model train presentation, right? And lastly is hump yards. Please don't say that. I don't really want to go into other definitions, but there's always one person who talks about that and thinks everybody knows what they mean by that when it comes to train terms. So please don't do that. I don't like bringing that up. All right. Let's look at code words, right? NMRX, let's look at this example. So we have clinics up here, WTrack. I'm not sure what that is. If an intro individual looks at this, it might be about track. So this might be okay. Perspective, I'm not sure how that relates to a model train thing. Car tipping, that might be generational, I'm not sure, right? Designing, building laser cut models, that's very advanced. Making rolling stock is also a code word if we don't know, because I literally figured that out 5 minutes ago. And then signaling a primer for modelers. Again, that's another code word, right? Queensland Railway, that's pretty cool. That's a very much an intro thing. And UP passenger cars. UP might be a little bit of a code word, right? But a lot of people know Union Pacific. So those are the only two that really don't have code words in it.
So WTrack is making layouts using wooden Brio track for kids.
Okay. All right. So I didn't know.
And I only knew that when I watched the clinic.
All right. So let's look at this, for example. Here is the casual modeler in this category. If we are talking about the AP program scratch building, or because my grandpa's American Flyer, 100% American Flyer collector, he's in this category. I grew up here. 9 times out of 10, these guys up here have no idea what this bottom group is talking about, right? Because if they haven't heard of the NMRA or TCA, they don't know what the super extreme niche is, right? We are already in a very much an extreme niche because we are 10% of a niche, right? So we need to remember that there are code words that we shouldn't use. So we need to associate trains with something else. If we break it down, let's put it into their field. Use words and use things and use events and try to track them for what they're interested in, right? If you're looking at 18 and 25-year-old men, I don't think a lot of them are interested in pre-war line now. Just going to go on a limb out there, right? So remember to put it in their field. Word of mouth. Let's talk about word of mouth. When we're recruiting non-trained people, because guess what? I'm not a really big fan of just trains, right? I'm interested in the logistics of it, right? That's my major, supply chain management. So that's why I'm in model railroading, right? So when recruiting non-trained people, again, associate it to what they're interested in. I don't really care what type of train, what type of diesel is out there. I don't know the names. That's just not me. I'm interested in B&O, specifically when it goes from East St. Louis to Breeze, right? That's really what I care about, right? So you need to associate trains with something else that they are interested in. So if you have a mechanical engineer, which we have a lot, associate it with building something, right? Very logical things. Great example of a club in Ohio. This is cropped, and I need to really change it and find the image again. But what does model railroading have to offer me? Well, there's a lot of stuff it has to offer. So associate trains with something else. In addition to that, why do kids leave when their grandparents are in the hobby? Well, this is a no-brainer right here because you associate it with Thomas, right? If you're 15 years old, you really don't want to go in a hobby where all you do is hear about Thomas the Train. No one really wants to do that. That's not what we're about. So my grandpa, because he was sort of in that extreme niche category, he also did antique gun collecting and did a lot with cars. So I associated trains with antique gun collecting, cars, and other outdoor stuff. So that's I'm also associated with logistics, right? So associate it with something that they're interested in. Or what does model trains mean to them? Ask your question when you're going at that booth, right? Ask them why they're here. So what are you interested in? Oh, I'm interested in building a layout. Talk about, if you take a look at this mini clinic, we have people who can help you one-on-one build that. And we'll go into that stuff next section. The whole point of this presentation, again, and probably this should be drilled into your minds already, is getting the casual modeler into the 10% and making it, again, 15%, right?
They actually said that in the room, but I had it muted.
All right, okay, I was getting nervous.
They get credit this time.
All right. Recap. Talked about social media, talked about train shows, we talked about word of mouth. Let's go retaining. Let's talk about retaining because that's really big. Remember at the third slide, I talked about more options. We had more of a once a month option than an in-person meeting, right? Trying your own style of hobby, TCA or NMRA, or the rail fanning network groups. We went over the slide already. The point is pre-COVID, we traditionally had 4 to 12 meetings a year that were in person and that were kind of boring, right? Post-COVID, you could hop on any meeting and do anything you want. So it's going to be very hard to just say we're going to do the same thing over again because there's a thing called competition and another club is going to go do something that people want to do, right? So my message to you is let's find a balance post-COVID. How do we transition from virtual to in-person, right? From the pandemic era to post-COVID is creating options for our members, right? Members want to join a club that is active. Hybrid clubs are a great option. Why? Because they're half in person, half online, right? You guys are doing both sessions, right? So you're saying, so you have that, and then you also have this meeting, right? So if somebody can't do a Saturday, they're like, well, the meetings are only on Saturdays. I don't want to be a member, right? You're saying, oh, we have an option on Thursday where you can go and still get involved, right? So that's what hybrid options are there for. Hybrid clubs are there for, are creating options for members. Since college campuses are in a lot of remote places, if you look at like Lubbock, Texas, right? They were able to start hybrid a year and a half ago, right? And so they've been picking it up and moving it faster because they've been more in that sort of bubble of that college campus in a college town. So they've been able to do this a lot more. Benefits of a hybrid club, we've talked about this already, both in person and virtual. You can do it when you're busy. I think somebody said they had COVID on here, so you can do it when you're quarantined, right? Still participate. And we can do what I'm doing, participating from long ways away. Like I said, college campuses and student groups are ahead, right? Because since they gone back earlier, they can continue to do hybrid and go forward. And so right now, I'm on a lot of Zoom meetings. Well, no, I'm in a lot of groups. That's what it is. That are organized exactly like the NMRA. Very decentralized, and the divisions are just once. They're just what is it? Each school is a division, right? So it's very decentralized. The leadership there controls it, right? You control how your meetings are. Very similar organizations. How it's structured. By the way, here's the campus I go here, right? Actually, we had, never mind. We'll talk about that later. But let's talk about focus. The reason why I bring up focus is the Fellowship of Christian University Students. Same thing with the 10%, the model railroading. Churches are having issues finding younger members, right? I think in the US, it's the first time that Christianity dropped below 50%, right? And so I talked to a pastor about this, and he said the average for churches, and it's different than Bible, the Texas and the Bible Belt or whatever, but for the general country, 25% of the next generation continues and goes on to church. And so they're sort of in that same boat a little bit, right? Metaphorically, there's a lot of other things going on. We know that, but heading in that general direction, you're both heading in that general direction. You're having issues finding new members, right? It could go, right, but generally, right? They're the Fellowship of Christian University Students. They are a Texas organization, so every single school is a different division, right? So UTD is a division, college, which I went to last 2 years, is a division, right? So I've been to a couple different divisions with these. So I've been in this group for like 3 years. Organized like the NMRA, very decentralized. However, they have weekly meetings because they're different, right? But metaphorically, you got to use your imagination on this, very similar. They get about 200 to 1,000 attendees per meeting with very little budget and run by college kids. What do? They create options, right? So they started doing hybrid a lot. They started meeting on different days, and they started doing a lot more small group activities, right? Like you're doing with the bull session, right? And so this group has got to 200 to 1,000 attendees per meeting, which is really good because they're giving options to members, and they're also hybrid. But the point is how do we transition from virtual to in-person is creating and giving options to our members. So when we're doing in-person and going back to in-person things, we need to do more than just the monthly board meetings, because I don't really want to sit on an hour meeting or something like that, or 2-hour meeting, and all we do is talk about board stuff, right? Let's do that on a Thursday night Zoom call. When we're in person, and you guys are doing a great job at this, is finding other options we can do with members. Rail fanning trips, museum trips. There's a group in Iowa that does a field trip, and they rent a bus, and everybody gets on the bus. They drive to Chicago, and they go to the Illinois Railway Museum, and they spend a day there, and they close it down for just that NMRA group. They've done that pre-COVID, right? There's a lot of things you can do. Go to more train shows. Rock River Valley Division up in Rockford. We're going to talk about them later. Goes to a Walmart parking lot. Everybody carpools, and they all went to Train Fest together, right? So there's a lot of opportunities to do that. Post-COVID-19 clubs, what divisions have been doing really well? Piedmont Division is doing really well because they're interacting with the casual model. If you go online, they're doing intro to model railroading workshops right now, right? They also do train shows. Cowcatcher division, they're doing good. They're hosting 2023, and also what they're also doing hybrid, by the way. Piedmont's doing hybrid, I believe, last time I checked. And what Cowcatcher did is when the big boy came in, they said, you know what, we'll volunteer some of our members, but in return, we want to set up a booth to recruit members. The big boy sighting in Fort Worth is a great way to get casual members, casual modelers into the 10%, right? And then Rock River Valley, we talked a little bit about them. They're about 60 members because up in that area, the division square mileage is a lot smaller. So there's a lot of very small divisions around Chicago. So they have about 60, and I think they decreased a little bit, but they actually put a train show in a mall, right? And so they're attracting a lot of individuals from a lot of different backgrounds there. Other clubs that are doing well, Big Bend, Tallahassee, they have train shows and they're doing meetings and they're working one-on-one with their members for modulars. So they're actually doing the mentoring part, hands-on activities, which is really good. Senior division, T2S, I believe this was the old TCA division that decided to leave and create T2S. I'm not sure on that. Don't quote me, but I know they are now very big in Oklahoma, and they do about 4 to 10 train shows a year in Oklahoma. So they are very active and they give their members options, right? In that club, I've heard a lot of good things about that club. I meant just that division. And a lot of them have gotten written up in newspapers and things like that. So this is a smaller division that's doing really well. In a very, in Oklahoma, it's not very populated compared to Dallas, right? South Texas Socials in San Antonio, this used to be an NMRA group. Basically what they do is they have virtual, by the way, I'm not sure what they're planning right now. They are doing hybrid and they have these mini meets like you're talking about Cincinnati, right? So what they do is they say, okay, quarterly, we're going to meet, we're going to have a restaurant and everybody come here at 11. We're going to get the back room and do 3 clinics. Then at 1, a lot of the museums open up and you can go and just go tour the museums and all the clubs in San Antonio, right? And number 4 is youth and model railroading, right? This is a very interesting club because a lot of people complain that the 10% is dying, right? This group is getting more individuals involved in model railroading, but at a very young age. And so they did a hands-on clinic with 35 youth model railroaders there. This group is also one of the prerequisites for getting the Walter Scholarship, the Walter Scholarship you see online for high schoolers. So this group is doing a lot. Why are hybrid groups important? Let's talk about this for a second. Virtual groups like Jim Kello's group, Narrow Gauge group are basically free. They offer clinics, newsletters and magazines a little bit, Zoom meetings, and they're mostly free. And and now they became even outside this the train community, right? If we talk about college campuses, it's the same way. We're seeing that as well. So they're competitors of non-layout clubs like TCA, like NMRA, because they take advantage of the virtual options. In-person clubs have one-on-one mentoring, operating a layout, and you have access every day. The issue is NMRA is in between these. They're in a gray area. So it is important to have hybrid clubs for divisions so you can get the mix of both worlds, right? Get the one-on-one mentoring, but also have those options to speak directly with members online like we're doing right now. Because there's a lot of benefits to the NMRA, but we need to give our members options so they don't go to a competitor, right? And clubs that go hybrid have more options. You guys have more options because you're doing a bowl session, right? And you're also doing this meeting. You're giving members options. Possible examples, this is for other clubs, right? Virtual meeting Thursday nights, you do bowl sessions, right? You have the Q&A, out-of-town presenter, tips and tricks, possible board meeting then. And then once a month in-person meeting, you have hands-on clinics, hands-on tips and tricks, right? The museum visits, the rail fanning trips, right? Giving people that option to participate one-on-one. I love what you guys were talking about if you're going to the Indiana live steamers, right? That's a great example of an in-person activity that you can do. But let's talk about new members, right? Because everybody is going to be a new member once in their life. So you're going to have, with the casual modelers, you're going to have intro, you're going to have all ages. So new members do not know what code words are. You need to remember that. They are here to learn how to build a model railroad. That is their first thing. They are interested in joining a club, and they're here to really have fun. It takes about 3 events for a new person to really dive in and want to contribute to NMRA. So it is important to get these new members to 3 events in at least 6 months to get them interested in wanting to contribute to NMRA and wanting to be here more. So we need to make it fun for them, right? We need to engage them, right? We need to encourage them to be part of the organization. Even that means going to operation houses, inviting them to the operating, and they suck, right? Because I've actually had that because I'm not very good at operating. And I got invited at the beginning, right? And so so that's a great example, right? Working with people one-on-one. This is another good example. I like this photo. You can see here, this is Sharpie. It says, "Do now open Railfan Rooftop Bar and Grill," right? It's a really nice building, but he put it in Sharpie, right? This is the first thing you see on this guy's layout, and the importance is you need to have fun. Even though a lot of people would like, why didn't you do a traditional sign? We need to remember that model railroading, we are here for fun. We're not here to compete. We are here for fun. But we need to remember that everyone starts at social, right? Manufacturers and trade shows, they get us to social to casual, and our job is to get us into the 10%. So one thing I like to show is a really crappy scratch building I did like 2 years ago. And this is one of my first, right? This is one of my scratch buildings about like 6 months ago, not a year ago, right? The point is everyone starts as a beginner modeler. So so everyone starts there. Encourage people to continue going, right? Fred just got his MMR this week, right? He probably has some really crappy buildings in the back of his basement that he doesn't want to admit, right? So even though he's an MMR, he did start with really crappy buildings. So we need to remember that when we have beginners that are trying to enter the AP program for the first time, right? Now let's go to the AP section. If y'all want to unmute yourself, what does the AP program do for members? Can somebody unmute?
I just talked about it. This is a quiz. It helps you learn and grow and contribute and bring others along as well.
Yes. Or makes people stay longer in the NMRA, right? That's the whole point of the AP program, is to get people to stay in the NMRA longer. And when they do the AP program and they stay longer, the results are it gets people to jump from that beginner to intermediate. It makes people want to volunteer at the NMRA, want to get more involved like Fred is doing. It makes people want to give presentations in clinics. I actually just got my AP certificate. I don't have the certificate yet, but I actually got the AP volunteer. And I'm actually for this clinic, this goes towards my degree. So because I have to do volunteer hours. So this actually goes towards my degree. So the AP program, every time I do something with NMRA or nonprofit, I get to put that towards volunteer hours, and I have to get a certain amount of volunteer hours to complete my degree, right? So this is a great example of keeping people in the NMRA, right? NMRA overall becomes more active. A great example of what MRX did is they got people who were on the verge, not really interested in the NMRA, wanting to present more and being more active, right? There's one guy I talked to recently in Florida who just got on the standards committee, and for DCC, he started in NMRA, wasn't very active, did a lot of the virtual things, and now he's on the national board, right? So the AP program does work. But how to start an AP program? We need to remember very few people do the AP program as their entire hobby. Probably remember there's only like 698 people, right, who are MMRs all time. That's less than 1% of the entire hobby. So how do people start in it? associate it with people want to do. That's a big theme of this, right? It's grow the 10% to 15 and associate things that what people want to do. So if we look at this example, we have model trains. Here's the 10%, and MMRs is all the way down here. It doesn't even have a category. This is super niche, extreme niche, right? This is like not even on here. We need to associate trains with something else. Example, if they're interested in, if they're a mechanical engineer, historian, or they like designing things, have them start with scratch building, right? AP volunteer, they're wanting to get involved in a group, right? Encourage them to do AP volunteer. So my first AP certificate, when I got it when I was like 19, was the AP volunteer, because the only reason why I joined the NMRA was for school. I wrote my college essay on trains, got me into my school, right? I get to put that I have a leadership position on my resume because I don't do anything. I have a chair position for social media for my division, right? So that helped, land me an internship, right? So we need to associate it with something else. Associate trains with something else, right? If we look at author, public speaking and writing articles, right? So there are many ways to get involved, right? My story, the reason why I joined NMRA, I'll say this again, is I needed something else for school. That's why I'm in here, right? I'm not a very big diesel or what trains are out there. I like logistics and I'm really here for school, right? So that's why I'm here. Find what they are here to do, right? Find why they joined the NMRA, and it will make them want to contribute more. Overall, the AP program makes people stay longer. If we look at the industry again, we want to grow this to 15%. We need to remember that everyone starts at social, goes to casual, then goes into the 10%. So our job is to get casual members to the 10%. We need to realize that we are a closed organization, closed community. Overall 10%. It's very hard to get into it. We have a lot of older members here, right? And we're not very tech savvy as a whole entire organization and the train community in the 10%. So we need to remember that there are people who are intro that are interested in joining our club. So associate trains with something else, right? Here's probably, and this is what's happening. Our job is to get active groups, right? They're going to go to active groups, or they're going to make their own if they're not active enough. The non-active groups, they're very much close community. If they can't get new members, they're eventually going to die off, right? I'm not sure what the NMRA member count is, but I'm interested to see where they're at. But if we're remembering this,
you could always ask me. I'm sitting right here if you want me to tell you the number.
This is my last slide, dude. Come on.
That's all right. That's all right. You could have just said, you could have asked if you want the number, you just have to ask.
All right, what's the number? What's the number from last year to this year?
Up net 404 members since I became president.
Over 404? Okay.
We're up 404. So when you take away those that have joined and those that have left, we're up 404 net. Other people in the past have always said we've had X number of people join, but as you've said in your presentation, retention's important. So we've gone up 404.
Cool. Well, this is the last slide. Options, flexibility. Remember, we were here for model railroading, right? So we need to have fun. That's it for me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Well, I'll stop sharing my screen. Does anyone have any questions?
Anybody in the room have a comment or question? There are a few people doing this here a minute ago when I still had it on mute for you.
Well, I feel you need to differentiate between big commercial shows like Greenberg, that, and our train show and sale. And I always say, put on from model railroaders for model railroaders. And anytime you can online, do a little bit of cheerleading for the NMRA. Put a good word in that Facebook group or something like that. It never hurts, and it always helps.
James Russell here, and granted that even within the mid-central region, that there are some shows that they have much bigger participants, but I noticed that at our show we even had he's on today. Bob Frankerone was kind of demonstrating a few things, and maybe Bob could say for sure, but it seems like at least for our show that even though we try to offer to if you will snag some new people, it seems like to me anyways that most of the attendees just want to come for the show, and the families that come just want to see the trains run.
Yeah, I think I said this earlier. Those are the social goers. That's like 50 to 60% attendees at train shows.
So, I mean, like I said, Bob's on, and
I think, Russ, you're accurate in your assessment. I've been doing this show now with Division 8 for more years than I care to remember, and either people are going to join or they're not. I mean, it's I appreciate all the efforts, the social media efforts and things like that, and yes, I do think it's all of value, but I think nationally, memberships overall in every club has gone down except AARP. So, it's great to hear that. It's great to hear that the NMRA is up 400 and plus over the last year, because that makes them an anomaly. Membership, magazine subscriptions, because of the internet, because of social media, I think it is a big detraction, because now people spend so much time, so much screen time, that it leaves little time for anything else. So I don't know. It's just an interesting evolution.
yeah, and Bob and James, on the flip side of that, just as of like today, our monthly contest since the pandemic, and we've had to go virtual, and even now that we have hybrids, that the contest is all online, if you wish, but a number of members have noticed that it's the entries are keep getting better and better. One, because I think that if you can't make the meeting, you can still enter your model, via the website. And two, that sometimes if you have a very well detailed model or car, you didn't want to, wrap it up, take it in the box, and then put it out for fear that a part would get broken off and everything. So I've seen over the last couple of years that the modeling contest has really accelerated into some fantastic models being displayed. So, and I don't think that would have happened had it not been for the pandemic.
Very true.
Anything
That's
else?
all I got.
Anybody in the room? Anything? Nothing. They're quiet in here. I think they're ready to take a nap after all that chocolate cake they had by being here. Anybody online? Anything?
All right, can I come in and say something?
And you were next. You know me well enough to know you were next.
James, thank you so much for giving such a passionate clinic, and a lot of the things there that you are saying are things that I'm also saying at National about use of language, changing things. I mean, where is it? I've got my props ready here, but I've lost it. Where is it? Annabelle, my daughter, has stolen it. There we go. So recently, I purchased this railroad dictionary, and I sent a copy to our employees at the NMRA so that they could understand some of the language that's being thrown around by our members. And you know, definitely we have a niche of a niche, and we do need to recognise that more, that the language that we use is important. I really like data-driven presentations. I hope you can start to add to your presentation the evidence of where your data actually comes from, and certainly if you wanted any data from me, I'm willing to share it. The materials and stuff, I just want to cover a couple of points to help people with some of the things that you said. The materials and stuff for shows and any event that you're doing about the NMRA and the organisation can be ordered for free from the headquarters, and they'll put it in a big box, and it's a big box, and they'll UPS you a box of materials that will last you a very long time. The leaflet that James was telling everyone to throw in the bin, we've redone that just before COVID, and it's completely different language that's in there now. That was redone. Also, with respect to the magazines, what I'd really like you to start to do is to encourage people to download the NMRA apps where our digital magazine is, because there is a free edition in there, so people can read the NMRA April 2022 edition. And I guess you guys have heard it from me, and you've seen it, and we've spoken about it. But we're doing a lot at National, and I think the really important thing, as James has identified all the way through his presentation, is the need for change, the need to be adaptive, and the need to look at what's different and what's new. And I think that, you know, well recognized there with the AP program, it definitely is something that keeps people in. I always say when somebody, as people are starting to realize, I'm more than willing to hear people's concerns and complaints, but don't expect not to be offered a job. And so, you know, it's important to give people a job, to give people ownership, especially if it's something that they're passionate about. And involving people in what we're doing, whether it's an op session or at a train show, giving them some materials to take away, is really important to start to build that strong connection between us and the organisation. And something that you can steal, James, and use in future presentations is that I very much want the NMRA to be like a university is, in terms of how proud people are to forever, having been in an organisation for a length of time, associate themselves forever with that organisation in a positive way. So it's about how do we make the organisation much more sticky. And as an organisation, as the NMRA, what we're trying to do is make data-driven decisions, and decisions that are led by members on the floor, and that involves us coming out and having these conversations that we've had with you guys before. That will involve conversations that will take place at Indy Junction, but also next week we'll go out a survey about education, because when you say what is the real purpose of the NMRA, well, our prescribed purpose is to educate people and also to help maintain standards in the hobby. And we do a significant amount behind the scenes of review, compliance, standards all the time. There's a lot of volunteers that do that, but we need to do more on the education piece nationally, and we'll be doing that. And also provide you guys with the tools, because everything that James has said, if you imagine if it was a division of 6 people, it would become terrifying and overwhelming a little bit, some of the passion and some of the things, and you're thinking, crikey, if I can't do all this stuff, then I can't be successful. And that's not really the case. I think what James is really trying to say here is small changes make small changes make a big difference as you turn around the ship. So being able to implement just a few of the ideas of James has shared will definitely help. And so what we're looking to do at National is to put some of the tools down to the shop floor that are needed. And there'll be an announcement at Indy Junction of something that will be being launched in August that will make a huge difference. There'll be as one of my childhood heroes, Mr. Fred Dibner, would say, there'll be a demonstration of the said thing at Indy Junction. And, you know, I think that's really going to help remove reliance on technology that some people just can't currently afford, and also remove a reliance that we currently have on Facebook. So yeah, I think we need more people to recognize the things that James is recognized here from his work. So I thank you, James, for sharing that good message.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Well, one thing I forgot to mention about the box is I had about 10 people rip up their NMRA card because we didn't have a card reader. So they couldn't put their card in, and that was a big drawback of train shows. So if you do have a card reader, I would recommend getting one of those. But I appreciate everybody. Let me talk to you guys today. Hopefully I can come back a year from now and say something different. But I really appreciate everybody thanks everybody. You guys were great today.
You bet. Thank you, James. Russ, anything?
James, thanks for taking your time today. Always a pleasure to have you. So take care and good luck with that final.
That's right. Thank you, James, and thank you, Gordy, for joining us, and thank you for all of you for joining us today for today's meeting. And we're going to shut it down now. Have a great weekend.